And we are live on Leadership Redefined with another special guest from Wine Dance. Welcome, Rich. Welcome, Anthony. How are you?
Morning.
We have Paul, who is obviously busy. You hear the phone ringing in the background at his high school. Paul Sibley's. Love introduce yourself, and we'll get into some great. We are fortunate enough to know Paul for a couple of years now, so we know what a great leader he is in his space, and have had some really wonderful conversation. Very passionate leader, high school principal rather. So, Paul, real quick, introduce yourself, and then we'll get into a little bit of your leadership style and what you're passionate about in your role.
Hi, my name is Paul Sibley's. I'm the principal of Wine Dance High School. Um, One of the most enjoyable jobs you'll have is to be in a place where you can really impact children and hopefully to provide the necessary tools to see them really excel in society.
So, Paul, can you just sort of really, we won't get into it too much, but sort of the it's the demographic of the Wine Dance area of your high school, just to sort of frame out where your like the area that you're principal of.
Okay, Wine Dance is a little hamlet. We're a 4 mile radius here in Wine Dance in Suffolk County, New York, on Long Island. We don't have a lot going on here in regards to businesses or anything you'll see in the city area. But we have a bunch of students who are talented and want to get the opportunity as any other student within Long Island. So yes, we're faced with many challenges. We have 57% Hispanic, 48% Black, and that's what our school is made up of. So because of that, we are faced with many challenges as it pertains to our Hispanic students here at Wine Dance High School. Many students come to this high school lacking a lot of education. So these are what we call SIFE students, uninterrupted educational students. So when these students come to Wine Dance High School, they're 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, and we're placed in a position where we have to now have this student placed in ninth grade. Now, if you think about that, you're at that age where you're almost a man or a woman in retrospect, and you're being placed with teenagers, all right? Your mindset is much more different than theirs. So when they're in such classes, I believe self-esteem play an instrumental role as to not allow them to really perform the way they should perform. Their mindset now become one of, I want to work, I need to work. How can I work and also be in school? So that challenge is a really tedious challenge, which don't allow most of them to actually finish school. So these are the challenges we really face here when students drop out of high school, and we have quite an enormous dropout rate here because of what I indicated earlier. So it would be most advantageous in some way that our state really look at it, because when we're having such a high rate with such students, then, I wouldn't say that's equity across the board when we're talking about what's best for our children here at Wine Dance High School.
So, Paul, thank you for doing that, because I wanted people to understand sort of the demographics, and it's also it's a challenging area as far as socioeconomics too, right? The economic poverty rates, free and reduced lunch is pretty high there as well, correct?
Yes, we have 100% free and reduced lunch here. And as you indicated, poverty plays an instrumental role as to why our students sometimes don't perform at the level we would like them to perform. There are kids that, when you think about it, their mindset is how I'm going to eat after school. And when they begin to think that way, now they're not as as dedicated as they should sometimes with the work within the classroom. So they're faced with the work, they're faced with what I'm going to wear, they're faced with how I'm going to eat, they're faced with sometimes making a decision, should I go to school or be here to help out my parent, take care of my younger siblings, and especially during this pandemic. This is where the realization came out. All right. Many students were not showing up in school or during the virtual. That led me as a principal to stop looking at this data and start to do something about the data. And in doing so, I got out my office and went and knocked on 24 homes. These were seniors that were struggling and not showing up in class. And when I went out into the community to knock on these doors, some of these students, I was out there around 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And some of these students were just waking up when I knocked on the door, and some parents were home. And, I get into a conversation as to first why I'm there is because you're not on track to graduate. Then the conversation leads to, well, I came home at 3, 4 in the morning last night from work. Right. So this is what I'm faced with. This is what the real challenges here. So, I kind of not embellish them, but kind of encourage them that school is necessary. School should be valued. School is the tool that you really need to make a difference in your community as well as in society. I think about, these challenges that they're going through, and I kind of reflect on myself, even as a principal. If you were in this predicament, what would you do? Would your principal be able to convince you to leave a job that you really need, that you're really taking care of your family? Is 17, 18 years old, your family needs you and depend on you. Would you be able to say, okay, Mr. Sibley's, I'll be right back to school? Or you will be in a situation where, I'd like to get back. I like to do what you say, but my mom is out of her job and my dad is out of his job. And they're all depending on me. So would I make that choice? I really don't think I would be able to make a choice that I'm asking for. All right. So this leads me to just think of different ways in which we can really help our kids. All right, with this exact issue. How can we allow them to work and still be in school? All right, there needs to be somewhat of a balance. And if we're not able to come up with a balance to ensure we're really meeting the needs of our children, we'll continue to be stagnated in what we do. And what we really need to do is look at this data and try to come up with real substance answers to make sure we can equip our kids to have this education as well as to take care of the needs at home.
I think you already got into your leadership style. You're passionate about your kids and you'll do anything for them. Anthony, Rich, any thoughts or questions for Paul?
What comes to mind with me is two things come to mind. Well, probably more than that, Paul. But how admirable your passion is we should put that in a bottle and spread that around a lot of other folks. But I think I also, there's 2 points, and I think they may melt, but let me just make one statement and respond any way you want. But although I think you've already alluded to it, I'm hearing that the traditional high school structure, the 40 minutes a day, 7 however many periods a kid is in a high school, flat out doesn't align with the needs of your students.
Right.
And the world out there, remember we used that term a few times way back in the beginning of our work with you. The world out there has a whole different expectation of that these children have to meet, that impedes what the traditional way we expect high school students to complete their education. And I think you understand that we can't continue to do what we've been doing and expect any results any better than what we've been getting.
All right.
And I just want to add that if you are quote unquote failing at that traditional system, the punitive measures
Yeah.
that the states take are so counterproductive and counterintuitive to what is needed. And I think it just exacerbates, and your challenges each and every day. And that's what saddens me about the whole thing when I think about, they may understand what you're dealing with, but the system is not structured so that it supports instead of tears down what you're trying to do.
And that's a very sorry, the lights. That's a very important thing you just mentioned, Anthony. The system, right? When you create a system should be there to allow you to be successful in what you do. That's what a system is supposed to do. When I think of the system here, that's not what we have. There's a difference between equal and equity, right? As it pertains to our kids here in Wyandanch. When my neighbors have 3, maybe 4% Hispanic and from all the schools in my surrounding area, then they have a better chance at being successful with their graduation rate, because now you have mom and dad at home. You will have those kids getting tutoring at home, and the schools benefiting from the tutoring that mom and dad is getting to their child at home. Unbeknownst to me, we don't have that here. All right. But I'm not I'm not sitting where I'm looking for these excuses. All right. I can't allow myself to do that. I allow myself to use all the tools that were given to me and then enhance it. Me as being the principal, I have to get out my chair, get off my shirt and tie, and roll my sleeves up to address the needs that's in my building. I know my building best than anyone else because I live here. So then one of the major things I did, I created a mentoring program with young men, troubled young men, single fam mother, young men, that today, after some graduate, I'm still known as Pops. My own son came to visit me when the boys were here. And the first time they heard that, they looked at me and I said, I explained to you going home, but these young men that joined this mentoring program, because it's something I don't ask them to be a part of, because when you become a part of this, there are principles you must follow. So it's a volunteer basis that they join this program. But when they do, I can assure you these young men graduate. All right, they get to graduate high school because I now become a teacher, principal, dad, everything with them. I'm here on Saturdays and Sundays, and I'm here with the blessing of my wife, because this is what it takes if I'm going to see some really change within the building. When I started 4 or 5 years ago, we had gangs within the school. Since my program started, those had dissolved completely. I have 0 issues with gang. I have 0 issues with Hispanic and Black. This is what mentoring can do. It changed the dynamics and culture of the building. Now I have the boys, and the girls were very upset when I started this program because they wanted to be a part of it. So they called me male chauvinist in the beginning, until I had to stop laughing and then really sit down with them to let them understand, as a male, I can't sit with a bunch of girls on weekends here because, not everybody loves Mr. Sibley's, and these are things they can use against me. So I cannot put myself in that predicament, even though you and I would know it's not true. I just won't put myself in that predicament. So these young men They have tutoring. They go on various events for the politician legislators in this community. They do many community service from the first day of school. They are here doing voting drive. They do blood drives. They do Thanksgiving food drives. They do Christmas toy drive. They have a Christmas concert. Then we go into February Black History, where they perform for all the legislators during Black History programs. Then they have a lupus walk. They have a breast cancer walk. It's just so many things these young men do. And what I get them to understand, when you're not part of a gang, you now uplift the community. So socially, I have changed that dynamics within the building so they can get to really pay more attention in the classroom during their academics than worrying about, is somebody coming to get me? You know, that type of feeling when you're walking the hallways. Our young men don't have that feeling here. And the Kappa Leaguers, they are here to prevent bullying, fighting, anything negative that's going to transpire in the building. They make me aware before anything happens. And that's the culture we build here. The teachers have bought into the system with the boys. And it's just something we're really proud of, because not one of them have been in jail. Not one of them died. And these are my takeaways. All right. Everything is not, this is not in the data that everybody reads on when the school report cards come out. All right. But we do our endeavor best to ensure that our kids graduate and graduate on time. As I revert before about equity and equal, because we have so many Hispanic and E&L kids, we have to provide more services for these young men and women.
Right.
In order to provide these services, you can't give me the same budget you would give my neighbors.
Exactly.
Because I have extensive services in which we have to provide for these children. So this is what they're lacking in regards to the state funding. They need to look at the dynamics and the components of which we're dealing with here at Wyandanch.
Yeah, well said, Paul.
Yeah, so
very well said.
Paul, and I think we could have you on about 10 episodes, and it would be so valuable for people to hear how you really have, just so people understand. You referred to, there were gangs in your school and there are not gangs now, working Saturdays and Sundays still now, changing the culture of your school. And we're not talking about a minor shift here. We're talking about gangs to no gangs. That's not a small shift. Passive students to becoming active in making sure it's a positive and safe environment, right? So all of these things I hope people are listening to, and I hope you'll come back on again, Paul, because we could really get into just the equity and equal piece alone. I'd love, and we could delve into. So thank you from me. So what I'll do is I'll let Rich and Anthony real quick last comments, and then Paul will give you the last say. But thank you from me. It really has been a wonderful episode. Rich?
Yeah, real quick, how admirable, well, we're not surprised, but how admirable, Paul, for you to invest your soul into those children as you are, period. And certainly what you're trying to do has reaped benefits. And yet, in addition, the piece about what Anthony also mentioned, that how the school systems are set up, still is the elephant in the room. We can talk about that hopefully in another conversation.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I just want to say that, having interacted with you over the last few years, Paul, the adjectives I think about with you is tireless and passionate, but you also have a relentless growth mindset. And I hate to use those quippy, ideas, but it's true. The challenges that you have, the resources that you don't have, and a system that's structured, I'm sad to say, against many times what you're doing, and you never ever waver in your belief and support of what you guys can do, and I think that's a tribute to you, the district, and the community. So keep the faith. That's all I can tell you.
Uh, well, that again, Anthony, you touched upon something major. My faith is everything. I know God will provide. He might not come when you want it, but he'll come and get you right on time, and I see the goodness in a whole lot of young men here. I see the yearning to really be successful in everything. You provide that the correct environment, you'll see the real heart and soul of our kids. I thank God for my wife. She give me the blessing to do what I do, especially with the mentoring program, which I included my sons because, I have to make sure, I continue to develop my very own sons myself. So they're part of this, and the boys love them, and they're able to share some really important things with them as well. And, I know there is a star out there for each and every boy and girl here at Winans, and we just will not falter to excuses. All right. I think outside the box, as I've shared with you, Anthony, where there's a will, there's a way. All right.
Definitely.
So we won't, allow our failure in any way to be because of what we don't have.
Thank you. So well
Well
said.
said. So well said.
And thank you again. And please, but we got to schedule again at some point to continue this conversation. Maybe when things settle a little bit after graduation during the summer, potentially. I would love to have you on again, though. All right.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
All right.
Paul, thank you so much.